She loved the outdoors, and her mom said since she was little you could always find her digging around outside in her nicest dresses, covered in dirt, planting things and building hammocks. She had a lot of exciting things coming up and had recently got her cosmetology license. But as the summer of 2018 crept in, her ever-positive outlook was being pushed to its limit. An unknown person had been sending her harassing messages and DMs via masked numbers, random usernames, Snapchat accounts, and Instagram and Facebook profiles. It had been happening on and off for almost a year, but now it was relentless. She felt confident from the way they spoke that it was all the same person, just using different devices and platforms. Things got even more frightening when Ellie got sent part of a video on Facebook. It had been filmed from right outside her house. The person was watching her at her kitchen table, exposing themselves and touching themselves as they filmed. Several more videos of a similar nature followed. If the messages weren't scary enough, this had all just taken a very sinister turn. How had this person found her house? Her best friend Hannah described it as a serious and sick game of cat and mouse. Enough was enough, and Ellie called the police. She reported some of the usernames and numbers, one of which was Mikhail or Mika. Did that name mean anything to her, they asked. Ellie said she had an ex from years ago called Michael, but she had no clue who could be behind this. Officers wrote up a report and Ellie asked them what she should do next. They told her to take self-defense classes and stay inside at night. Ellie, defeated and not confident this would change anything, still agreed and signed up to some classes with her mum Tam, but the harassment carried on. Police couldn't determine where the messages were coming from as they were masked numbers from websites with random area codes, and the challenge of diving into this digital data would take some time. But not long after Ellie called them, her mom Tam called the police again, asking to log more information. The police came out to Ellie's house and patrolled the area 2 times that same week, but they didn't see anything nefarious. However, according to police records, the total time spent on both searches was just 5 minutes. It got to the point where Ellie didn't want to be in her house by herself, and her friends would take it in turns to sleep over. But this person clearly had no problem approaching her house, and the reality was, until they were caught, how safe could she ever really feel? In one conversation, her friend said, "What do you do in this situation? I wish I knew how to help." Ellie replied, "I don't know," with a sad face. "I'm alone and don't know a lot of self-defense. It's taking all of my peace of mind." One day when Ellie was chatting with a friend about everything going on, they both suddenly had a realization, and it came via a new Snapchat account. The account was registered to Mikhail Strauss, and Ellie's ex-boyfriend was Michael Strauss. Despite thinking that it couldn't possibly be him, Ellie, seeing the username, realised that it was. She immediately texted her friend. "Damn it, I know who it is. My ex-boyfriend from when I was 17. He and Ellie had broken up ages ago. They shared a similar love of art, music and festivals, and initially had a lot in common. But things went south quickly and she cut off contact. She updated the police on her findings. On July 28th, she was texting her online friend Nate. They had both spoken about hanging out in person many times and even made plans to meet that day. Nate said, "I'm not bringing my phone, is it cool if I just knock?" But it seemed that later Ellie changed her mind and just wanted to stay in. "What's this I'm hearing about some creep following you though?" Nate asked. "Lol, no one is creepy to me, so I don't know," Ellie replied. He asked what she was up to and she said she was just by herself. She didn't have any friends over as usual, so she was just heading to bed alone. As Ellie locked everything up and went through her now usual routine of taping her curtains shut, little did she realise she wasn't talking to Nate. It was just another fake number and fake name, and now Michael Strauss knew she was home alone. August 1st, 2018. When people couldn't get hold of Ellie over the following days, her panicked mum Tam reported her missing. There was no doubt in anyone's mind this was all connected to the stalking. Her car was still parked outside her house and there was no activity on her phone or bank cards. One question for the police was Ellie's phone analysed before she disappeared to try and identify her stalker? But the Westchester police declined to comment. It was determined that her case was classified not as stalking, but as telecommunication harassment. One of the numbers connected to Nate had a 213 area code, and the number had been purchased via a website, but it had no previous data and was not linked to another phone. It had also not been active since the day Ellie went missing. Over the next 2 weeks, as the search for Ellie was on, detectives got some information from the website the number had been purchased from, and they were able to obtain a username, sign-up date, last login, and email associated with the account. It was all linked to her ex-boyfriend, Michael Strauss. Michael had a criminal history going back a decade, which included public indecency, drug possession, identity fraud, and burglary. The public indecency charge in June of 2015 led to a mental health evaluation and a court-mandated follow-up treatment for 1 year. He had also created other new numbers to start contacting other women, and even started a new account via the same website a mere 53 minutes after the last message was sent to Ellie, using the 213 area code. August 24th. Tragically, less than a month after she was reported missing, a discovery was made.
New tonight, we now know the body discovered in Liberty Township is that of 23-year-old Ellie Weik, who'd been missing since August 1st. Butler County Prosecutor Michael Mosier telling Local 12 late today that he's 100% certain the body found at a field on Milliken Road are the remains of Weik. The body was found Friday afternoon while Westchester police were looking for evidence in her disappearance.
Ellie's body was found off of a rural road in a field. She was naked, wrapped in a blanket, bound with duct tape, and had a plastic bag over her head. Her cause of death was asphyxiation. Just a short walk across the field from where Ellie was found lived Michael. And at 4 a.m. the following day, Westchester police placed him under arrest.
We are continuing to follow breaking news right now. Police have just arrested a man in connection with the murder of a Westchester woman.
Chief Joel Herzog basically is saying they want to protect the crime scene. They want to protect the prosecution possibilities. They want to protect everything right now until they're absolutely certain what they have. But here's what we know right now. They've made an arrest. Michael Strauss, 29 years old, of Westchester. Chief Joel Herzog says it was a tip from someone that led them to Milliken Road between Maud Hughes and Yankee Road. They've swarmed the area with drones, with helicopters, officers on foot, and they found a body buried in that particular area.
Held on a $4 million bond, he sat in custody while investigators tore his house apart and went through all of his devices. Google had turned over information to the police, showing that an IP address registered to Michael's residence had made searches for "How long does a dead body smell?", "Missing girl in Hamilton", and "Missing girl in Westchester, Ohio". Ellie Weik was also searched for on Google, as well as 3 searches for the Cincinnati Strangler. On July 18th, a matter of days before she had gone missing, more searches were made for "How to survive prison" and "A survivor's guide to prison", followed by "How to delete photos off an iCloud account". There were searches for forced rape while jogging and teen forced porn. Police said other searches he made were so disturbing they would not reveal them. They found numerous videos of joggers he had filmed over the months, following them in cars and around parks.
We have people that get sexual gratification from videotaping women. Do you ever do that from outside, or is it always when you're inside somewhere?
It could be anywhere. It
Could be at the park, could be walking, jogging past somebody or something like that. Yeah. It's whenever I come across like somebody attractive. Have you ever filmed a woman jogging from inside of your car? Probably. I would assume so, yeah. Put your hands up here for me. I have another video of someone wearing this bracelet inside of a white car filming.
Investigators had also found a screenshot on Michael's phone taken from the Maps app of a field where the police discovered Ellie's body. Michael was unbothered and gave some vague excuse about doing research for a script he was working on as he was in the film industry.
Crazy horror stuff. I like psychological stuff.
If someone was talking or acting like it was somebody else.
And I was going to leave, and then when I was going to leave, I saw her through the window or whatever, and I'm just going to film her for a little bit.
I'm looking at Micah Strauss's Google history, and I see Mason jogger attack, ambush rape, where do women jog in Westchester. Yeah, then there's a porn video.
At his house, they found the most damning piece of evidence so far. Inside his art portfolio, police found Ellie's driver's license, a lock of her hair, and her pink necklace. The interviewing officers were now losing their patience with the cocky and arrogant Michael, and they wanted the truth.
And Michael, we have to get to the bottom of it. It's going to be Ellie Weik. That's Ellie Weik. That's Ellie Weik's head under a bag. Why you have her driver's license, why you have the necklace that came off her neck, why you have a clump of her hair in a tin that you even call it a tribute.
When they put everything to him, he told police it was all an accident. He said Ellie had agreed to shoot a torture porn video with him, something he was often paid to make for thousands of dollars.
And I don't think any reasonable person is going to believe that Ellie comes outside with a blanket on, getting ready to go to your house with zip ties on her hands, unless she's being forced or threatened.
No, we were filming the thing, and we were filming her scenes, and like I said, it wasn't tight zip ties.
Michael said that while shooting it, Ellie had died accidentally from suffocation because a plastic bag was over her head. He said the cameras were already rolling and he accidentally recorded her death, watched it back, then deleted it and threw the memory card away. That video, if it indeed existed, has never surfaced. When they searched his basement, they found handcuffs still attached to a bed down there. Obviously, detectives did not believe for a second that Ellie had agreed to anything like this. However, it painted a terrifying picture of her last moments. She had clearly been forced out of her house by Michael and taken to his property.
But now we do understand that Michael Anthony Strauss, 29 years old, has been charged with her murder. Now, he is known to police, and we did find extensive arrests for him in Butler County. Just in the last few minutes, we found a number of arrests and several other charges for him in previous cases. Right now, though, he is facing a new charge, a murder charge.
We'd like to thank the community for their support. We received a number of tips and other information from the community and the associates of Ellie, which is what led us to help solve this crime. Without their support, it would not have been able to be done. Westchester police officers and detectives are some of the most dedicated professionals I've ever known. But due to the size and complexity of this case, we enlisted the assistance of BCI, the FBI, Butler County Sheriff's Department, Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and many others in order to investigate this crime thoroughly and without delay. The FBI, we received assistance from the FBI Squad 5 Major Crimes Unit, their Behavioral Science Unit out of Quantico, and a highly specialized unit that concentrates on digital communication evidence. We have pictures posted up here of Ellie, and as you can tell how free-spirited she was and what a beautiful human being she was. Over here to my left, you'll see the rainbow. That is directly above where Ellie was found, and that rainbow appeared shortly after we located her body. That in itself touched many of the officers on the scene, and that is what you will see. You see the picture because the way it did touch the officers, and they felt it was a true sign from her of a thank you for bringing her home, and that was the goal here. Unfortunately, it was not brought home alive. So That's all we have.
29-year-old Michael Strauss was indicted by a grand jury on 9 charges: aggravated murder, 3 counts of tampering with evidence, menacing by stalking, petty theft, abuse of a corpse, and gross abuse of a corpse. On September 1st, Ellie's funeral was held, and everyone was encouraged to wear tie-dye and bring something to stick in a scrapbook. People could bring drums to make music to, and the whole day would be a reflection of everything that Ellie loved. Any funds raised would go towards planting a tree for her, and a day later, a celebration of life took place.
To bring some color back into all the darkness. I mean, you met her and you couldn't help but to love her. She was just filled with so much joy and laughter and happiness, and she was just an amazing person overall.
And on Sunday, an opportunity to remember.
Only girl I've ever met that can pull off some neon yellow lipstick.
More than 100 gathered with one word on their mind.
Just a release.
Yeah.
I think the balloons are really symbolic to releasing a lot of the tension and built up frustration in the past, and we're just releasing it and letting it go.
We wanted to say thank you. We're a very private family, and but just really heartfelt thank you, and it doesn't go unnoticed.
9.
It's been an up and down roller coaster for a lot of us.
6. 5.
Very bittersweet moment. It was very beautiful.
2.
It's still heartbreaking.
1.
Yeah, it was very beautiful to see.
The investigation had been extensive, and there were more than 800 pages of evidence submitted to the court. During a court appearance, Michael's defense team presented their theory about how Ellie had died. Despite his admission, they wanted the court to grant them access to her medical records and therapist notes.
We believe that the medications may show a contribution to death. We also know she's had different signs of depression, anxiety in different manners, all of which go to a theory of how she potentially may have met her demise in this case, Your Honor.
And although they did not elaborate, they implied that her depression could have caused her to maybe misuse her medication, and maybe this had killed her. Considering the autopsy findings and the way she was found in the field, the prosecution said it was not only a convoluted theory, it was just downright insulting.
Because they have a toxicology report which indicates what was in Ms. Weik's body at the time she was found. Whether or not that she was depressed or had anxiety really isn't relevant to the determination of who killed her.
But no trial would ever take place, as Michael Strauss would eventually plead guilty to killing Ellie. However, a guilty plea in this case would mean a far lesser sentence, as 6 of the initial charges against him were dismissed. At his sentencing, Michael said,
"But please believe me from the bottom of my heart that I never wanted to hurt anybody. And if there was any way to bring Ellie back, I would trade places with her in a second. Since then, it has been my life goal and ambition to use the values to bring things into the world, not take things out, to create, to not destroy. In that regard, I have failed. I not only failed myself, I have failed society, I failed my family, I failed Ellie's family. And most of all, I failed Ellie. I'll never learn to forgive myself. I don't expect forgiveness. In return, I'm not the victim here. It's a burden I shall rightfully carry for the rest of my life."
Ellie's dad David said, "My God tells me to forgive, but he doesn't say when, and I don't know if I'll ever get to that." And Michael's own mother addressed Ellie's family, offering her deepest sympathies and feeling sick over everything that had happened.
"I also ask, Your Honor, that his punishment for stalking Ellie, murdering her, and disgracing Ellie's precious body be the maximum allowed."
The judge gave the maximum sentence he possibly could, but it was still a punch in the gut for Ellie's family and friends. Michael was sentenced to 17.5 years behind bars. 15 years to life for murder, 18 months for menacing by stalking, and 1 year for abuse of a corpse. The sentences will run consecutively. Accounting for credit for time served, he will first be eligible for parole in just 2036. and again in 2041. The judge called it unfortunate that Michael's case did not qualify for life in prison without the possibility of parole, but his hands were tied. There is still no understanding as to what motivated him to do this. The prosecution said they could only speculate, but they think the motive in this case was perversity. Mr. Strauss was the author, director, producer of his own Twisted movie. This case reads like a crime novel, but a horror novel at that. That's what is so scary about all of this and so heartbreaking, is she did what you're told to do. She did all of the right things and it still happened. Where is the closure in that? Said her best friend Hannah. After an internal investigation of the handling of Ellie's many calls to the police, the Westchester's police chief ordered a 40-hour unpaid suspension of an officer after it was shown that he had violated procedures. Officer James Thomas failed to thoroughly document information and conduct a proper investigation when Ellie filed her report on the 11th of April 2018. Officer Thomas needed a stronger sense of urgency and attention to detail when investigating this case to ensure the safety of the victim. That did not occur, the report read in part. The report did not document that Ellie had an ex-boyfriend named Michael, his last name or address. The potential link to the name Mikhail or Mika was not looked into. The emails and videos Ellie turned over were not added to the report. The officer did not document that he had received an email from Ellie on the 1st of May 2018 with additional texts, and he did not scan the messages into the report or log them.
Michael Strauss has murdered once, and according to newly released court documents, he told an inmate 23-year-old Ellie Weik wasn't his first victim.
Michael Strauss is also a suspect in various other cases. Michael's old inmate claimed that he told them he had killed another woman named Shelley and dumped her body in a creek. He described it in exactly the same way as he described Ellie's murder, but Westchester police were not able to verify this claim, and they do not know who this person is. In January 2018, a female jogger was attacked by a man in a black hoodie and face mask. She was jogging her normal route when the man grabbed her by the face and neck and pulled her into a grassy area and ordered her to be quiet. She fought him off and managed to get away. As can be seen from Michael's many videos, he clearly had an obsession with watching and following female runners, so this is something the police likely think he was involved in. Given how disturbed and violent Michael has already shown he is, one has to wonder how many victims he really has. In the United States alone, an estimated 13.5 million people are stalked in a one-year period, and nearly 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men have experienced stalking victimization at some point in their lifetime. And in 94% of murder cases, stalking behavior was identified in various ways and forms. One officer said that stalking can often look like watching a murder in slow motion. Her mom Tam said every second her brain isn't thinking of something or focused on something, the thought of her daughter comes in. I am haunted by the fear and horror Ellie felt, looking at her murderer through plastic with tape around her neck and her wrists as Ellie took her last breath, she said. Ellie Weik clearly touched a lot of lives. Her cousin said, "We just wanted to bring some colour back into the darkness." I don't think closure will ever come, to be honest. It's something that gets easier to manage on a day-to-day basis, but there will never be closure. Ellie is a part of this family and always will be a part of this family. We'll see her again, we know that. It'll just be a long break till we see her again. When her body was found, a rainbow was over the field, and the sun was bright right in the spot that she was. Her family always think of this as a sign that she was watching over them that day, telling them that it was going to be okay, and thanking them for finding her. It reminds them to always see the brightness, always see the colour, even when things are so dark and grey.